We are continuing to talk about windows opening onto our Creator, making our Creator known and seen to us in a way. Windows opening onto this is 33rd word, and this is our third meeting on it, inshallah. And without further delay, we'll turn to Dr. Yamina. Bismillah. Oh, 1 second. I don't know what's happening. What? Just 1 second, please. Yeah, this YouTube, and if it's interesting. Okay, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And once again, welcome to Receiving Your Weekly Quranic Wisdom Study. Sorry for the delay in starting. We are continuing to read from 33rd words by Imam Saeed Nursi. We have discussed first window, and now we will reflect on the second window, inshallah. And Dr. Yamina will be leading us as usual. And we are welcome to join in with comments and questions. Actually, we will take the opportunity to reflect on the signs of God together, inshallah. This is meant to be a training in seeing the windows or signs all around us, opening up to the beautiful names of God. So I will turn to Dr. Yamina to start us for tonight, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. So this is the second window on the wisdom of the ayah that we had in the beginning, which tells us, where God tells us that He has put signs, signposts and ayat in everything in the world and within ourselves. And so we can have someone. Sarah, would you please read the second window, and then we can pause and go back and reflect on this window, inshallah, and what we can see through the window.
Okay, inshallah, I can read. The second window. While in their existence and individuality, things are in a hesitant, bewildered, and shapeless form among innumerable possible ways. They are suddenly given a most well-ordered and wise aspect of individuality. For example, every human being has on his face characteristics which differentiate him from all his fellow humans. And it is equipped with utter wisdom, with external and inner senses. This proves that the face is a most brilliant stamp of divine oneness. And just as each face testifies to the existence of an all-wise maker and points to his existence, so too the stamp which all faces display in their totality shows to the mind's eye that all things are a seal peculiar to their creator. O denier, to what workshop can you refer these stamps which can in no way be imitated, and the stamp of eternal besottedness which is on the totality?
Thank you, Sarah. So here we're introduced to actually a very important concept, which is ahadiyya. divine oneness. I'll come back to it. But here what we are told is, he's saying, while in their existence and individuality, here individuality is tashakhus, being single, being an individual, having a separate identity, being separate from other things, even when they resemble each other. Things are in a hesitant way bewildered and shapeless form among innumerable possible ways. It means, for instance, because he took the example of the human face, but we can apply to anything else. Before the child is formed in the mother's womb, we have an idea, a general idea of what the child will look like, a human child. So there will be a face, we have a concept of what a human face is. However, we don't know what exactly each child will look like. It means there are innumerable, endless possibilities of what that child will look like. But then suddenly, one particular identity, particular form, particular face is given to it. So while in their existence and individuality, things are in a hesitant, bewildered, and shapeless form among innumerable possible ways, they are suddenly given a most well-ordered and wise aspect of individuality. For example, every human being has on his face characteristics which differentiates him from all his fellow humans. Of course, he's a human, so he looks like all humans, yet there are tiny things that differentiates him. And it is, that face is equipped with utter wisdom, with external and inner senses. This shows that the face is a most brilliant stamp of divine oneness, ahadiyya. And just as each face testifies to the existence of an all-wise maker and points to his existence, so too the stamp which all faces display in their totality shows to the mind's eye that all things are all together. They are also a seal, a stamp peculiar to their creator. They are also an ayah. So here this reasoning is very, very important, extremely important. And that's why I usually always repeat that we need to always focus on one thing, one event. For instance, here, the face, the human face, one event. And then that event, that thing, points to divine oneness. Then we can go back and look at that one's human face and see how it looks, because it looks like all human faces. Then in their totality, they are also an ayah, they also testify to divine unity. Now, the second step is very important, because I'm talking in their totality. It means all faces. I have not seen all human beings in the past and in the future. And even in the now, right now, it's impossible for me to go and check all human beings all over the world, let alone if they exist in some other places. However, through this reasoning, we can induce from one face to the all creator, And then whoever is the maker of this one face must be the creator of all of them. And I can have certainty, yaqeen. And this yaqeen I can testify as though I've seen it, because they are all coming from, they all carry the same stamp, the same seal. So they point to the same source. The most important thing is that I cannot start with everything at once, because if I start with everything at once, if I say everything is created by God, I have not witnessed it and I cannot witness it. The only way is to look at one single event, one single face. And then that shows, especially when we look at it, because it looks like all the other human faces, we can understand, it is clear that whoever is making this human face in this particular way has will, is an agent with will, who chooses to make something different from another. He has knowledge, he knows everything, so he makes each one different from all the other one. He has an all-encompassing knowledge, an all-encompassing power, because you need to, knowing is not enough, you have to also create. He's the creator of all things. He has power over all things. There is wisdom in that. There is meaning and purpose in that. So that one face becomes a clear area, a clear seal to divine oneness. And then we can come back, and in the second step only can we conclude and witness and testify that everything, all human beings, all human faces proceed from the same single source. These two terms, so the first one, when we look at the one face, is ahadiyya, divine oneness. And when we look at the whole thing, it's divine unity, wahidiyya. Allah is ahad and he is wahid. And we can find in the literature, especially tafsirs, commentaries on the Quran, different explanation of what these two names refer to. And according to a vast majority of Islamic scholars, Wahid refers to the ones whose attributes of perfection, the Isma Ilahiyya, let's say, the most beautiful names, encompass all things. It looks to all things, the unique, indivisible being. And Ahad refers to the only being who is free from any deficient attribute. We cannot attribute. So this is the general, if you go and check, generally this is what you're going to find. In the Risale Nur, however, Imam Nursi's work, the concept of ahadiyya is not just something, a definition. It is a very central, basic concept in reaching tawheed with yaqeen, with certainty, true tawheed, genuine tawheed. And it is also the first step in the testimony, in the shahada. And that's why it's important, because without the concept of ahadiyya, looking at one thing, oneness in one thing, we cannot truly be sure that God is truly the creator of all things, the maker and sustainer and provider of all things and beings everywhere in time and space, in the past, in the future, everywhere. And so Imam Nursi explains this point. He starts, because it's so important, he starts explaining it at the very beginning of the first volume of the Risale, which is the words that we read, the 11th and the 6th, and now we're doing the 33rd. But in the first word is his reflection on the significance and the importance of Bismillah, of acting and living Bismillah, and how everything lives and acts Bismillah. So when we understand how everything in the creation is moving and acting Bismillah, then we understand what it means for us to live and assert and live and testify to this reality of Bismillah, to the power of Bismillah. So there is, at the end of the first word, there is an addendum. And in that addendum, let me share, you're going to find it? The second mystery, Isra. So in the addendum, there is a first mystery, second mystery. So in the second mystery, he says, in order not to overwhelm minds, like human minds, by divine unity, wahidiyya, everything is created by God. I can't encompass everything, so I can say, yes, I truly, I am certain that God, everything is created by God. I cannot, it's overwhelming because I cannot comprehend, I cannot encompass, it's beyond my comprehension, my grasp. So in order not to overwhelm the minds by divine unity, wahidiyya, which is apparent in the boundless multiplicity of creatures, the Quran of miraculous exposition constantly points out the manifestation of divine oneness, ahadiyya, oneness, one thing, within divine unity. So there is the whole thing, and in the Quran he's telling us, and in the 25th word, he gives examples. In that divine unity, in the Quran, our attention is attracted to single events, single things to reflect on. Single, for instance, the day and the night, the ship crossing the sea, the wind, the rain, the cycle of the rain. So that we can focus on one thing, we can understand it, and then from there we can see that that event can point to one single source, because that event only, or that being, can only be and exist within its interconnection, its meaningful and harmonious interconnections with everything else. And so that single thing, whoever makes it, can only be the maker of everything. He has to know everything, has control of everything, power over everything. So from one thing, it is easier, and it's the only possible way for us to go to the Creator with his all-encompassing, most beautiful attributes, al-asma al-husna. And then we come back and say, whoever is making this makes everything else that is related to it. So it's always a two-step. So he's saying constantly, the Quran constantly points out the manifestation of divine oneness within divine unity. For example, the sun encompasses numberless things with its light. A truly extensive conceptual ability and comprehensive view is necessary to behold the sun itself in the totality of its light. So lest the sun be forgotten, it is displayed in every shining object by means of its reflection. And in accordance with their capacities, all lustrous objects reflect the sun's attributes, such as its light and heat and the 7 colors of its light, together with the manifestation of its essence. So too, the sun's attributes encompass all things facing it. The sun, wherever it reflects, all its attributes reflect that. So we cannot focus on the sun, but we can focus on everything mirroring and reflecting the sun and therefore its attributes. In exactly the same way, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى, and to God belongs the highest similitude. This is an ayah. But let there be no mistake in the comparison, meaning this is only a comparison, just as the divine oneness, ahadiyya, and eternal besottedness, samadaniya. God is قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ صَمَدٌ. This is a commandment. We are told to say God is ahad. It means, and this surah is called Surah Al-Ikhlas. It means the purity of Tawheed. It means 100% Tawheed. It's very important. And in this ayah, we are told, say God is ahad. God is one. And how can we understand that God is one? And then we understand that Samad, he is Samad. Samad means everything needs him, he needs nothing. It means when we look at one thing, whoever is making it cannot be anything in the creation because they all as needy, they have needs, they are being made, they are being created. Remember the first window. So nothing can be the maker of another thing.
Yeah, this is very important. So maybe we pause here a little bit, or
let's finish the second mystery and then we can pause.
Okay.
So samadaniya means when we understand that whoever is the maker of one thing has to be the maker of everything, it also becomes clear that this maker cannot be within the creation because they are all being made, all being created. So he is Samad. Everything beseeches him. He's the besotted one. Everything needs him, and he is the one who takes care of everything's needs. And so therefore, he cannot be the one that needs anything. He's the source of life, and everything, all living beings are taking their life from him. So he is the source of life, the giver of life, the only living, true living one, for instance. So he's saying just as divine oneness and eternal besottedness have a manifestation together with all the divine names in every single thing. Well, some names may be more prominent than others, and something that is more alive, an animal, a squirrel, displays more life than a plant, for instance. Yet all of them display all the names of God, but we may not see all of them. We may see most of them. But all these names are manifested in every single thing. Here it says thing, but I checked the original. It's her, bir, shay. It means every single thing. In animate creatures in particular, and especially in human beings, mirror-like essence, so too through divine unity means the whole thing, wahidiyya, each of the divine names connected to beings encompasses all things. Thus, lest minds become overwhelmed by the divine unity, everything, the totality of all creation, and hearts forget the most pure and holy essence, the Quran constantly draws attention to the stamp of divine oneness within divine unity. It means the stamp of divine oneness in every single event and thing. Otherwise, no wonder we forget and we live in ghafla. because we cannot behold the wahidiyya, the unity of everything all the time. Even when, if we stop and reflect, it overwhelms us. But if we start with one thing and then go and say and realize that his beautiful names encompass everything, then we can be present. We can feel the awe of what's going on because we started with one. We are not overwhelmed when we are overwhelmed with the awe, but we have certainty now. We can stay there. We are not, we don't have any doubt anymore. And that stamp, the stamp of oneness within the unity, one single face, human face within all the faces of all human beings. We did 3 salient points is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, because this is the addendum to Bismillah. So we can stop there, inshallah. So let's have, we can share and then here.
So there one thing that you emphasized was there's this 2-step reflection and going up and coming down, or going, zooming in, zooming out. So maybe we can unpack that a bit more with
that's I call it these 2 steps. For me, it's very important. The first time I realized it, like as reasoning, as logic, I was very, very excited, because in science, induction, which is you go from one event to all events, you have a law, what we call the laws of nature, and we say that those laws are universal. Why? Because we say, look, there are many events. But that induction, we talked about it in the first session, I think, inducing the whole from few events is not valid because it's horizontal, and therefore no one can ever check all that law will be valid in the future, because we cannot, because the science says we only believe what we observe, and observe not only with eyes, but like something we experiment based on experience. There is no experience of the future. And what we are also assuming a uniformity of nature. What if there is somewhere where these laws don't work this way? Because it stays horizontal, it does not work. If I have a particular plus a particular plus a particular, an infinite number of particular, they do not become a universal. There is no way. This logic, which is the scientific reasoning, is very faulty. Here,
now that's a lot of technical. I don't mean technical in a negative sense necessarily. It's just that it may not be. It's profound. It just may not be very accessible to.
It's okay. You think about it.
Many of us.
What is important here is the 2 steps. You go from one thing. You don't go one thing plus one thing plus one thing plus one thing. Like one limited plus one limited plus one limited does not make illimited. But here you go from one thing to all-encompassing attributes, qualities, names of God. Whoever makes this knows all other human faces, so he made it similar yet different. He has the power to make it. He's the creator. He's the giver of life. He's all-seeing. He is all-wise. There is purpose. There is meaning. There is harmony. There is order. So this, whoever is making this, has all these attributes. Now, with these attributes, whoever has all these attributes can only be the maker of all these, the whole, because they all look like each other.
Again, Yamina, how do you reach this conclusion?
The most important is the first step. Let's take a seed because it's easier. I take a seed, put it in the earth, water it, and then actually you don't have to put it in the earth. I have cuttings here, they're in water. So water, light, and sunlight and air. And it starts growing, there's life. So I look at what is needed for this thing to grow, to have life. It needs to have life. I look at water, it doesn't have life. I look at air, it doesn't have life. I look at everything around, they don't have life. They need to have knowledge because it's growing. In order to understand how it's growing, we do lots of research and things, and people get Nobel Prizes for that. And we say, this is a very knowledgeable person. He's a scientist. He was only studying one single thing, few cells, and understanding how they work. Because this thing doesn't grow haphazardly. It grows according to an order. And the cutting in my windowsill grows in the same way as any cutting of the same kind of plant anywhere in the world. They are not in connection with each other. It means they grow according to an order. There is knowledge, there is order, there is purpose, and something grows and then something comes out, a plant, a fruit, something. So there is purpose, there is meaning, there is harmony. And it knows its ancestors, like the seed. When it grows exactly like the tree it came from. The tree of the fruit it came from, subhanallah. So it's inherited, there is a knowledge there. So I can deduce from that one event, because it is meaningfully and harmoniously interconnected with everything else. Sunlight means sun, sun means galaxy, everything. It means seasons, it means rotation of the earth around itself, revolving around itself, rotating around the sun. All these things are involved in this event. And so whoever is responsible for this event must have all these qualities. Without these qualities, this thing won't happen. That's the first most important step. And of course, the fact that what maybe...
Sorry, Yamina, can you repeat that last phrase again? Without what?
I don't know what I said. Which
you
one?
Said whoever owns all these events owns these qualities.
No, whoever owns all these qualities can be responsible for this event, can be the maker, creator, agent, creative agent of this event. And in the first window, we saw how the thing itself and the thing around this, all things around this, can't be making anything because they themselves have need, they themselves need to be sustained and created. I can't say, no, but it's water that's making it. Not only it doesn't have life, it doesn't have power, it doesn't see, it's not conscious, but it itself needs to be sustained together. The water molecules need lots of things to be like that and remain as water, because water, anything can happen, it becomes something else. So water cannot keep itself as water. And remember in the first window what he said, which is also we are told in the Quran, compare with yourself, look at yourself. Are you in control of your life, in control of anything? Do you have the power, the knowledge, the control to do anything? When I understand that about myself, then the clearer I am about myself, the clearer I am about causes. That causes cannot produce the results that we may attribute to them when we are in a state of ghafla. Because those results need much more than those causes. They need the whole cosmos to exist, the whole universe. Not only that, but they need the whole universe, not only now, but in the past and in the future. And for that to be, there needs to be endless power, control, knowledge, wisdom, order. So whoever, that means the maker of one thing has to be the maker of everything. And the maker of one thing, most importantly, has to be the one who possesses all these all-encompassing attributes. This is a reasoning that is told implicitly and explicitly in the Quran, but that is constantly emphasized and repeated in the Risale Nur. And he emphasizes it very much because we cannot testify that God is huwa ala kulli shayin qadir, powerful over all things, has control over everything, just by looking at everything. We cannot even see everything. We cannot even grasp everything. There are, for instance, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ghafir, Surah 40, ayah 61, 62, we are told, it is God who has given you the night in which to rest, and the day in which to see. God is truly bountiful to people, but most people do not give thanks. Such is God, your Rabb, the creator of all things. There is no God except him. How can you be so deluded? Look how it started. God, it is God who has given you the night in which to rest, the day in which to see. In other places it says, the night with which to rest, the day to which to look for providence, for rizq. Here, in which to see. Okay. He's giving one example and then saying, such is God, your Rabb, the creator of all things. Sometimes it's not God, the creator of all things, but it gives us look at one thing, and then we are told God is all-knowing, al-alim, al-hakim, all-wise. How to understand God is all-knowing, all-wise? If you look, if you reflect on that one, sometimes it's only one, sometimes there is a list of each one is given individually, individual events. When we look at them, or phenomena, like the cycle of day and night, when we look at each, then we can conclude that the maker, the creator, the sustainer, the giver of existence, the provider of this can only be one who has all these attributes. And then once we find the one who has all those attributes, whether you call it God or Allah or whatever, come back and yes, this one is the one who creates everything. Now I can make this affirmation with certainty, with yaqeen. In Surah Al-Ra'd, which we did study together, the whole surah, in ayah 16 and 17, we are told, say, Surah Al-Ra'd is Surah 13. Say, who is the Rabb, who is the sustainer of the heavens and the earth? Say, it is God. Say, why then do you take for protectors things other than him, who can neither, who have neither the power to bring benefit nor harm even themselves? You see, these things, how do you take something instead of God that cannot harm or benefit or harm even itself? And in other ayahs, we are told they cannot harm you, they cannot benefit you, they cannot harm you. They have no power. And in other ayahs, which I shared last week, we are told they cannot because they cannot create anything because they themselves are being created. So say, are the blind and the seeing equal? Or are the depth of darkness and the light equal? Or do they believe that there are partners to God that have created the like of what he creates, so that their creation seems indistinguishable from his? Or are there anything can create? And this is a reasoning that's repeated in the Quran. It says, if there is anything that is creating, then bring your burhan, bring your evidence, show me, hatu burhanakum. Show me the evidence that these things are also creating something.
So the emphasis then here is when it says God is the creator of all things, I used to read this as a kind of statement that you take it or leave it, but you have to take it if you want to, go to
Look here at the end of the ayah. It says, God is the creator of all things. He's the one, the all-compelling, al-wahid, al-qahhar, the one, al-wahid. Here, actually, it's a translation. It would be al-wahid, al-qahhar. He says, now, how do we understand that he is al-wahid, al-qahhar, that he creates all things? He sends down water from the sky, and riverbeds fill up and flow each other into its measure.
So then when it says God is the creator of all things, it is telling us that only the creator of all things and the one who holds absolute sway over everything could create one thing. Because, now it makes a lot of sense. When I used to read this, differently, I couldn't understand what it means because it would say, did you see anyone else create like his? I'm like, what does that mean? Like, how do we know you created this and not someone else? But that's not like that. The idea is that only the creator of all things can create the single particular, individual things.
Exactly.
Like in the face.
That's why right after he tells us how God is the creator of all things, it says he sends down the water. Look, he's giving us one single thing, because I can only focus on one single event
at a time.
Phenomena at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then whoever creates the rain, creates the clouds, creates the wind, creates the earth, creates wherever the water goes everywhere, etc., etc. That's the second step. But the first step, the ahadiyya step, is extremely important.
And that's the step of moving from an individual thing, a single thing,
to all-encompassing attributes, and therefore to the beautiful names of God. So from one thing to God, from God to everything else. This is true induction.
Did someone want to say something?
So for me, I think the key word that was missing was a samadiyya. Samadiyya for me is whoever, whatever does not need anything to exist on its own can only be the Rabb. The Rabb has to be something, or someone or something or some power that does not need anything to exist on its own, and everything needs it to exist. So for me, this is my key, at least, to unlock. So in the example, whoever created, the example of the rain, like we say, so the rain does not understand, the water in the rain needs forces, needs something to be water, needs H2O, it needs atoms to come together in this way to become water. So as long as it has a need, and that needs certain conditions, it cannot be a Rabb. So then if we look at everything and realize it on its own, like it cannot exist on its own, it has needs, then we say, oh, this cannot be a Rabb. But there's so many of this around, they always act the same. And then this other thing cannot be a Rabb, but there's so many out there alone. And then all of these are interconnected. So like the wisdom that makes them all interconnected, there must be a force that does not need, and another keyword for me that you said was across time and space. Like that force has been working in the past for billions of years and is working now, like, so there's nothing that, everything that I see is very transient. So it cannot be shaping before it and after it. So the Samad is not only that does not need anything, everything needs it, but it's like always, like, absolute all the time. So then that is the deduction, like, then you have to be a Rabb, then you have to need nothing, and that you need to be able to keep the qualities by yourself all the time and give it always the same way all the time. And that cannot happen on any of the units that we're looking at. Is that a correct understanding?
Correct. And that we deduce from our observation of the things around us. When we focus on one thing, we can understand that. Of course, we can understand that because of the guidance of the Quran. I mean, Imam Nursi didn't stop thinking, and then suddenly he understood it. He reflected on the wisdom of the Quran, on the passages in the Quran, and deduced that.
Yeah. And he had an eye to see the message in the message. Yeah. Because when you look back to the verse, it starts with, who's the sustainer, and then who gives you benefit, and then rain, and then goes out to the larger circle again, which means the Quran is actually inviting us, if only we can see, to see that what is just particular, just individual, my situation, my phase, or my benefit, my harm, is connected to the sustaining of the heavens and the earth. They are all interrelated, and so I can realize that whatever is making one is making the whole thing. God is the creator of all things, meaning only the creator of everything can be the creator of one thing.
And this is because of his approach to the Quran. Like, he's not saying, if I say I'm a Muslim, this is our sacred book, what is it saying? Oh, yes, God is the creator of everything. Yes, God is the creator. So he's not looking at it dogmatically. Or he's saying, this is God speaking to me to guide me to him. I am in darkness. It's taking me out of darkness into the light. It is teaching me about who God is. God is revealing himself to me. Then you are reading and not assuming anything. Reading, and it says, for instance, in Surah Al-Ghafir, it is God who has given you the night. Say, he's God. So I go and check the night. I start reflecting on the night and the day. I cannot just go and read without... If when I read this way, it means I read while performing what the Quran is telling me. I am not just reading. Yes, I read the words, then I read the meaning, then I grasp and understand the meaning, then I go and live the meaning, experience it, and then while I am reflecting and experiencing, it will disclose itself to us. The guidance will show us, because it's an ayah, it's a signpost. I will start seeing what it is pointing to. And then it says, it is God who has given you the night to rest, the day to see. And then it says, such is God, your Rabb, the creator of all things. So how will I go from the day and the night to all things? If I go to the day and not only read, but I said the night, and wake up at night and reflect. What does the night tell me? The night to rest. And really, when you have a siesta in the daytime, it's not the same as at night. And then the day, and suddenly you see, you don't see at night, you see in the daytime. What's going on here? You realize that there is a sun, something is moving, something very far from us, something that looks almost like alien to us, yet it's very close to us and to our very like day in, day out life. I start realizing the connection between my resting and seeing with something that seems very far from me, the sun, for instance. And so this sun that looks like it has nothing to do with me becomes something that's very close to me. We are interconnected in very harmonious way, in very meaningful, beneficial, purposeful way, full of wisdom. There is an order. How this sun, the sun knows me, the sun takes care of me, the sun has mercy, compassion, wisdom? No way. So the question becomes, who is doing that? Only one, whoever is doing it, must know my needs, must have control over the sun and all these things. So now I start knowing him as my Rabb. And I say, such is God, your Rabb? Yes. This is my Rabb. Whoever is doing all this is my Rabb, and he is the creator of all things. Yes, if he is the one who, whoever has control over the sun has control over all things that needs the sun, because he is the one who is taking care of their needs through the sun. For instance, one single, and you can apply this to every other need. And in the second one, it says, who is your Rabb? Who is the Rabb of the heavens and the earth? So how can you take anything other than the Rabb of the heavens and the earth as your protector, as partners to him? And then it says at the end of the ayah, God is the creator of all things. He is al-wahid. How? Next ayah says, he is the one who sends down the rain. Says, he is the creator of all things. How? I don't know. Says, look at the rain. If you look at the rain, food, water, they're all connected. Food means all living beings, means all kinds of things. Whoever is sending that water there is the one who is the creator and sustainer of all the things that he is providing or sustaining by means of that water. He's all-knowing, all-wise, all-merciful, all-compassionate, and all this. Whoever that is, yes, he must be the creator of all things. I say yes.
There is another verse that Imam Nursi mentions elsewhere that's here on the screen as well. And again, it goes from among his signs, it says wonders in the translation, but ayatihi. Among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and the diversity of your tongues and colors. So it's kind of something very large, heavens and the earth. We can't maybe think about it a lot because heavens are vast, you know, what's out there in the space and the earth. And then it comes to very specific, very
part of the earth is the ocean. We don't even know what's in the depth of the oceans.
And then, yes, and then the diversity of our tongues and colors, which is very kind of specific, very individual, again implying that these are all interconnected. Only the maker of one can be the maker of the other, and this is a sign to
it's like the human face.
Yeah.
The color of the skin, all kinds of colors, but all of them, it's clear that whoever is making one is making all.
Yeah. And did anyone want to say something? Okay, if not, I want to come back to shapes, because there was reference in this text about things taking specific shapes, and then face was one major example. And I wanted to show a 1 minute face video. That's okay. It's the shaping of the face in the womb. Very, very fast. Let me. No, sorry, I shouldn't open it in this. I should open it. Can you see?
We were seeing it all this time, just like it's not working.
Okay.
It never will.
That moment of things coming to all together and becoming one thing, and that's as you see, it's so incredible, because there's so many cells and they know where to go, and they mold it into a shape. I think even before uniqueness, that it becomes a discernible shape of something, right? It was a lump in the beginning, just a lump.
Remember, it's one cell, and then it becomes a lump, and then it starts having a shape.
So it's
And then subhanallah, so so that we realize it's not happening on its own, we can people can detect it happening in the womb, and they have no way to fix it. When kids come out with even just the lip, like if you touch that philtrum that he's telling about, it's very smooth, very soft. There's like it's like a hill, like two hills with a valley in between. So like it's just under like the middle, like the two openings of the nose, there's like the in between, then it's like below. If the surgeons try to fix it, they never are able to fix it with the same shape like that. Like, not even the best surgeon can fix it and bring back the shape. So subhanallah, it's sort of like, say, can you do it on your own? لهم أيد يعني يبطشون بها لهم أرجل. Can you do this on your own? Yeah, so it's like, even that, okay, just go ahead and do it.
Are you the creators? Yes. Or are we the creators? The creator. And it's like the fingerprints. Actually, this uniqueness of everything is for everything. Snowflakes, I mean, trillions of, or billions at least, of snowflakes have been photographed, and all of them are, never two are the same.
But how is this accessible to a shepherd or to the tons and tons and millions of...
That's why he's giving the human face. It's not like snowflakes, okay, not everyone knows, but human face, everyone knows. If we see someone looking exactly like another one, what do we think? He's his twin. Why? Because we know that people are different. Even if they look very similar, like from the same family or siblings, after a little while, you see that they are actually similar, but not exactly the same. Only true twins can be truly the same. As if Allah says, I could have created you all the same. Look, true twins are the same. But the fact that we recognize that means we know that we don't expect people to look exactly like each other. So that's an example that everyone, you don't need to know any science or anything. Everyone can see.
And even there, like there be
It's not only the face, though. It's not what Isra was saying. It's not only the fact that each one is unique, but it's also this ahadiya. Wahidiyya is like the rain, and the rain has interaction with all kinds of things. We don't need, and actually a shepherd will understand more than we do that that the rain, the water can't be itself growing anything, and that whoever is making it must be the maker of everything. Now, this reasoning, neither the scientist nor the shepherd nor anyone can get it. It is so simple and so powerful and so reasonable that once it is revealed unto us and explained to us, we say, oh yes, how didn't I see it? But we need God himself to reveal this way of looking at things to us. Otherwise, we wouldn't need the Quran. So we don't find it ourselves, but once it is revealed unto us, it makes really lots of sense. It just aligns with our fitra. It's like the missing piece of a puzzle. It just fits in so much that we say, yes, this is true. It is so simple and so powerful that you can explain it to a child, he will understand. So it has nothing to do with how learned you are or how much you have researched the creation of things or anything. You don't have to know how the embryo is formed. It's clear that this face is formed. It has a form. And before it takes this form, it could have been, I could have looked like anything else as a human being, but I have this specific look that doesn't look like anyone else that you know or I know. What does it mean? We can just stay there. We don't have to go deep into science. When we go deeper into science, it just corroborates this reasoning, inshallah. Does it make sense?
And also it does some damage control, because science talks a lot in a materialistic way, as if matter is doing it on its own, somehow it happens. So like if there is some closer look at it, and then if you can actually bring out something additional from there, it almost, it's like a, counterbalancing the nonsense we get from science. Not science, the information part of it, but the materialistic side of it is
the interpretation.
Yeah, so the shepherd is.
But the shepherd can also interpret everything in a materialistic.
Yes, of course. But we have an additional dose that because we have been educated in a particular naturalistic way. I'm sorry, you were asking Maha. If that's.
Yes, I don't know why. Maybe I'm distracted or slow or something this evening. I'm not. I keep wondering, how do you reach at this conclusion, unless you're taking the Quran itself as evidence, and then
not as evidence but as guidance. Yes.
So yes, so you just this last phrase that Yamina spoke about, which is once it's explained in the Quran, it makes sense. I think I'd love to hear more about that. That it doesn't come. It's not. It doesn't. You said it doesn't come easy or automatic to our minds, but once it's explained in the Quran, once Allah, once we get this guidance from God, then it makes sense, and it sounds like you're saying then the puzzle fits together. But can you just step back one step and talk more about that we don't have automatic access to this understanding without God's guidance?
Maybe we talked about it a little bit, not in Labbaik, but in the past, especially about in the context of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that the part of La ilaha, this can't be God, this is transient, it can't be, because we have been created with a sense of God, with a sense of the beautiful names of God. In the beginning, we don't know that they are the attributes of God, but we have a sense of the beautiful attributes, qualities, somehow to their utmost. For instance, you can tell someone, can you imagine yourself to be very happy? And they say, but I've never been very happy. You say, okay, it's okay, just imagine it. They say, okay, I'll imagine it. When they're imagining, they say, how happy are you on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is 100% very happy? They say 7. How do you know? You said you've never been very happy. How do you know you are at 7? It means you have a sense of what 10 is. So we have been created with some innate senses. And that's why in the Quran we are told you are created, Adam was created, human being is created, and he's being taught the names when God blows of his spirit into a human being, and he's taught all the names. So we have that sense, those senses. So there is something in the fitra that recognizes. However, that potential, in order to come out, it's like a seed, it needs water and sunlight, and we need a guidance, we need the tools, the skills to be taught to us. Now like Ibrahim alayhi salam, we can, if we are truly true to our fitra, it means we are not too much distracted with the world. And that is, we talked about it in the past, in the 11th word, it is about being arrogant or having humility. When we have that humility and we listen to ourselves, to our inner true needs, we realize that we need purpose, meaningful purpose. We need meaning, we need purpose, and meaningful purpose has to be lasting. Anything that is transient, that doesn't last, that doesn't go beyond the grave, does not satisfy the heart. So that journey of Ibrahim alayhi salam was before he received divine guidance through God speaking to him directly, which is for us through the Quran. That's divine guidance through the creation. The fitra, and the fitra is not like only a software programming within us. We are also interacting with the creation, with the world, and the creation itself is God speaking to us through his creation. So we are already being guided, but there is implicit guidance, there is the explicit God speaking to us in the Quran. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was following the fitrah and the guidance in the creation, he felt that he wanted to find his Rabb, like something is going on. As I always say, like, I have all these needs and I have no power or nothing to sustain any of these needs, yet lo and behold, they are being taken care of. So who is doing this? That's the Rabb. Rabb is the one take care of me. So he was looking for who is my Rabb. And whatever he looked at, they were all transient. They could not be his Rabb. The Rabb has to be Samad. He does not need anything, and everything needs him. So that part, La ilaha, this can't be God, this can't be my Rabb, we are guided to do it without the Quran. Once we do this, then we say, but then who are you? Like Ibrahim alayhi salam said, unless you reveal yourself to me, I will be one of the khasirin, the losers. I won't find it on my own. That's when he recognized his total inability to find God, find the Rabb himself. He needed help, he needed guidance. That's when guidance comes. And it's the same with us. The Quran is there, yes, the Mus'haf is there, but the message of the Quran is not only what we read. That meaning that we read is like a key. The key will to the Quran. And so unless I use the key, I won't see what's in it. And I will need that, I will feel the need for that when I say, where is it? I feel that there is something, but where is it? Then I am given the key, I'm given the map, I'm given the guidance. And when I follow the guidance, not just read it, say I'm a Muslim, oh, God is the creator of everything. God is the creator of everything. Of course, it's not only I am being like self-righteous saying God creates it. Of course, because it is in alignment with the fitra, with human nature, people feel that, yeah, it makes sense. But it is intuition only. That's not enough. It is good, but it is not enough. We need to have more than intuition. We need to have certainty, yaqeen, as we are told in the Quran. And so that yaqeen, that certainty, needs to have reasoning through reason and the heart. But how to reason, we don't know, because look at the reasoning in science. I can show you, according to modern science, to modern logic, it is illogical, most of the things we learn in science. And now, it used to be people didn't know it, but now because people are studying the philosophy of science, everyone knows that it is illogical. But so the interpretation, I'm talking about the interpretation. So now,
interpretation in science, you mean?
The interpretation in science is based on illogical reasoning. According to logic as we understand it, or logic as it is formulated, for instance, modern logic. For instance, if there is something we learn when we are kids, if there is no water, there is no sunlight, the plant wilts. Therefore, sunlight and water, we are not told they are needed. We are told as if they are effective creator, producer of the result. That's totally illogical. It's like saying, look, if there is no bulb, there is no light. If there is no switch, there is no light. Therefore, the switch and the bulb make the light. Where did you get this? They are part of the system, but they don't produce the light.
Dr. Yamina, if we maybe perhaps we can come back to the text a bit more because the time is ticking.
I just wanted to emphasize that we are not saying, I'm not saying that we take the Quran as evidence, we take the Quran as guidance. It will show us the way when we actually go and follow the steps in real life, then it unfolds to us, then we start thinking, perceiving in a new way that makes sense, that really...
The question asking, you know, maybe more of that, a bit more, let's do a bit more of that evidence side of it. And if we come back to the text, I think that one thing that really personally convinces me is that the things are hesitant, bewildered, and shapeless form, and then they're suddenly given a well-ordered form.
Among innumerable possibilities. This
Yes.
is going to come back later in another
wisdom, with utter wisdom, like so. And that many of us may have noticed this during the spring or throughout the summer, the same soil, mud, and then these different shapes come up, right? So that is incredible because it's shapeless. I mean, when you put the seeds, there is no shape, let alone color or fruits, or there is no shape. And then yet, and it could go anyway because it's the same mud, same. And this is a Quranic passage, I think, from that we studied earlier. I can't recall which surah was it, but it was in the beginning of a surah. Ra'd? No.
One of them is, I think, in Surah Al-Ra'd as well.
Yeah. So like, it is accessible to everyone. As Maha nicely pointed out, it's accessible to farmer or somebody who's a computer geek, whatever. Everybody can, if they take a moment, we can see that it could go any kind of shape, and yet this thing comes out and it takes this particular shape, and it has this, and they are intermingled into each other. They're all kind of onto each other, but this is this plant, and it gets this particular leaf, and the other one also is a very similar leaf, but it's a different type. It's its own unique type. So it could go anyway, and yet it's taking this particular shape. And this is one of the things that's a very kind of clear sign that what is it that's giving all of a sudden this thing takes a form. Same with the baby in the
with the leaves, as you said, like the leaf stops. I have some canna lilies here in the front yard, so I have the giant one and the small ones, and they look exactly the same colors. But like the small ones, they have those leaves and they stop at a certain size, but the other one, it's much larger. How do they know that I have to carry on because I'm not the same kind of lily? Like,
yeah. And it didn't even have to be a lily. Like, it can go anyway or nothing. It can stay as a lump, and yet it takes, from innumerable possible ways, it takes a particular shape. And that's maybe similar the way we understand somebody's text or speech, right? If you have voice, you can say thousands of different words, but you pick words, and then if they are wisely said, it becomes a wise story or a wise teaching. Or then you say, well, this person is speaking knowingly. It's not like just haphazardly because it's picking. I don't know. This example just came to me, but the idea is that
there is will and
everywhere. And we see this everywhere. I don't want to be too scientific, but if we, in terms of information, but by now, not in medieval period, but by now everybody knows about atoms. And if you go down to the atoms, what I used to find very fascinating as a younger person, and still it's fascinating, is that when you go down, it's just electrons and atoms, and then you draw it, like it's basically.
Even if you don't go down to just stay at the atom.
Yeah.
If you go down to all the creation, it's all atoms.
Yes.
It's like going into a bakery and you see all kinds of breads and pastries and cakes, and they tell you all of them are made of the same few ingredients.
And then
here it's one ingredient.
Shape. Yeah, it takes this, and then they're all still, gluten products. This is the same atom, right? Atoms. And then the distinctions in chemistry used to be so fascinating because the same thing, if you organize it this way, it becomes coal. If you organize it this way, it becomes a diamond. If you organize it this way, it becomes water. And then if you look at the things themselves, they are just atoms and electrons. Like there isn't, like they seem to be all the simple same thing, but this one has 10 of them, this one has 5 of them, and then it becomes water, it becomes fire, it becomes something that's hard. It's like from innumerable ways.
If you go that way, then you will say what's atom and what's the subatomic things. It's only motion, practically different wavelengths.
Yes.
Subhanallah. You don't even have to go to atoms.
They're taking shape.
Sound, picture, like on TV or something, or radio, they're all wavelengths, just different wavelengths. Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, so things take a particular quality, a particular shape.
Wavelengths taking different forms, different qualities, different shapes.
And then this wavelength gives this, I don't know actual wavelengths, but you know, this wavelength has this quality. If it is in a different frequency, it becomes a different quality, like it becomes different color, whatever, I don't know exactly. But that is fascinating, that the things take shape and have qualities out of this whole you know, shapeless mud kind of thing. And some being with wisdom, all wise maker, must be distinguishing them and giving them their shapes. And it says it's the most brilliant stamp of divine oneness for the face. But the very fact that things become particular shapes and forms and qualities. So the water, same water, it has consistent quality, unless it gets a different command, right? In the case of water freezing, we talked before that it freezes differently under certain temperatures too, and that's very beneficial for the lakes and the creatures in the bottom of the ocean and so on. So that, but apart from those exceptions, water behaves in a consistent way. It didn't have to, because if you think about it, if you come down, it's all atom. Why these little balls become something like water, and then this other one becomes like oil, and the other becomes coal, the other becomes something like light, like, so it's that's having these from, you know, it's while in their existence and individuality as things existence, and also they take their particular shapes and characteristics among, clearly there's so many ways that thing could turn out, and it turns out in this particular way. That is a stamp of divine oneness. And then he says, with what are you going to explain this oneness? All these creatures know that what to become, and coming back to last class, consider yourself. Do you know what you would want to become?
I mean, it's not only that. I don't know. We don't know how we will look like, where we will be, like in a year or something. We think we know what we will be doing tomorrow, but anything could happen, and what I plan won't actually happen because it's not under my control. I intend, but it may or may not. But like, because it's tomorrow in a week, we think I've scheduled it. Let's go over that and think in a year, in 10 years. We have no idea. Forget about, we don't even know if we will be living or not. Let's assume that we will be alive. Subhanallah.
Comments here, 2 comments. One says, shapeless seed or soul that gets a unique type. Shapeless seed or soul that gets a unique type is a beautiful example to think about. And then I used to struggle with dealing with losing loved ones because of their particular individuality and personality that is unique to them. It seemed like an unsolvable problem, but now it seems like it is the ahadiyya that gives a unique individual nature, which is still interconnected and filled with beautiful beautiful qualities with the whole universe, which points to wahidiyya. Not sure if that's correct to say in connection to this, but it came to me. In the chat.
At least we understand that it's not separate from God, as if like, yeah, there is creation, things come and go, they are transient. I understand that, but this is my child, this is my friend. Like it's a unique person, a unique connection that we have. But that uniqueness is also part of the creation. At least at this stage, we can understand that. So it's not one-dimensional, or like it's very much richer and deeper than what we think in the beginning. Because in the beginning, maybe we are still not involved, as we saw in the 11th word, with the beautiful names of God, as experiencing them. We're just thinking about it. But the more we experience them, we will experience the ahadiyya, the uniqueness, the oneness, in every situation. So let alone a human being, for instance, a beloved one, for instance.
And also,
it's interesting. I'm sorry, Isra, go ahead.
I just want to say that, does this mean that, you know, uniqueness, we can also recognize that, I don't know how to, I'm just thinking out loud, like that loved one is unique, and she moved on to another world, but everybody else is unique too, so uniqueness still manifests. And then the second thing is, of course, because each thing is unique, then I can ask for and expect that they will be continuing to exist with divine grace, because God created each individual uniquely. So we shall meet again. Nobody replaces the other person.
It makes sense now. You can understand how important ahad is, because you want, yes, you say, but that person has to be. I need that person to find them in the other world. You say, yes, that's what ahad is. So we feel the need for ahad.
Can you repeat that again? I need that person to find them in the other world.
I mean, for instance, your father, Allah yarhamu, you in akhirah, you want to meet your father, not not if someone says, you know, God's creation. Yeah, but God's creation is manifested for you in the form of your father. So for you, you want to recognize him as your father again. And you say, so are we stuck in my father or in God? Yeah, but that's when we look at it from staying in my father. But when I find an ahad through my father, then I come back and I know that we will meet in akhirah, and I understand that I need God as ahad as well. And I understand my need for ahad is really like, I need each person, each thing to be preserved in their individuality, in their uniqueness, in their particular form, in their particular manifestation, way of being. So we appreciate that manifestation, that creation of God as it is. In this case, for instance, my father.
Yeah, I like that there is a need that to be preserved in its unique way of being. Like that is definitely a need. Like you want to go back to that. And it's also like the beginning, like the first revelation, always like when you started like bringing all of these ayat, like, you know, and how do we solve the puzzle, like, you know, the unlocking of the puzzle. And then it's interesting, like the first revelation to the prophet, like, you know, was read, like, you know, this is like there's a guide, a roadmap, a guide for you, so read it. And this unlocking, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم. Like, so it's also the shape, like, you know, all of this, like, you know, all of this shape that you have was created from a little hanging mold, like, you know, so just stop there. And now he's the most generous. He's not the most generous because he created you. He's not the most generous because he gave you life. He's the most generous. علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Like his generosity, like, is that he gave us a mean to unlock. Like now, this is the generosity, that I gave you a mean to unlock what is the connection between the hanging cloth and my creation, like, you know, that, like, you know, so the unlocking is the most generous gift that humanity has, not just Muslims, humanity has in the Quran. Like if they want to unlock like all the questions, those existential questions, then that is generously given in the Quran. So it's interesting that this is the first revelation. It's not like the 22nd, you know, 13th, it's the first revelation. And that for me is like, it's very powerful. Every time I think about the first revelation, I think how powerful and clear and precise and direct is the message in the Quran, subhanallah, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so thank you. And so shall we stop here?
Yeah, maybe if we have someone present the third window next week, and maybe someone start with summarizing the second window next week. We can start with, so that we refresh, because I think this is very important, because that's the only way to true Tawheed, to experiencing the beautiful names of God, and to truly performing the Shahada, because there is no way I can testify just like that God is the creator of all things, or God is Alim. It means he knows everything. He's all-knowing. How do I know he's all-knowing? And in the Quran again and again, and Imam Nursi's, like he's putting it in, breaking the reasoning into steps, says you have to start with ahadiyya, looking at oneness, one thing, from one thing to the all-encompassing absolute beautiful names, and then to God. Then you come back and you understand that he's the creator of all things, because each thing is interconnected in very harmonious, very orderly, very wise, very meaningful, very beneficial ways to everything else. So we need one person to summarize the second window, one person to present the third window. You can contact us, inshallah, during the week, but it'll be nice if we have that, inshallah. And this is like, it's not a matter that I don't have the time for this, or this is we are now learning how to read, to approach the Quran, and the Quran is the map to the mystery of life, to the purpose and meaning of life, to the purpose of what we are doing here, to it gives us the key to eternity, to eternal, to fulfillment and happiness here and now, and eternally. So it is more important than anything else. Why? Because it's going to give meaning to everything else. And maybe once we become clear about our istiqamah, this destination in life, there will be lots of things that we thought were important may not be as important anymore. And my personal, how do you say, guideline or checkpoint was, whenever I used to be like not clear, I would say, what if you were going to die in 6 months, in 1 month, in a week, tomorrow? Will you still be, for instance, like, be busy with this? Will you be giving importance to this issue? Then it becomes very easy to prioritize. Maybe, yes, it's something that needs to be done, but it's not the most important thing, or it shouldn't like fill my thoughts and my heart, because yes, it's something to be done, but it's not the most important thing. And lots of other things will be done, but with another intention. I will approach everything in a different way. Even sleeping and eating and breathing will have a different meaning. I'm saying these things because they are things that we cannot avoid. We all drink, sleep, eat and sleep, and walk and do something. Even the basic, our basic activities that we will be doing, we will either do them in ghafla and they have no meaning, or we will do them knowingly and they become a means of ibadah, a means of grounding us in our belief and living with ihsan, living in the presence of God, with consciously, mindfully preparing. There will be all means to prepare us for our eternal life, to achieve our purpose in life. There will be tools to prepare us to fulfill our purpose in life. So it's so important, because otherwise I may not be here tomorrow. I mean, death is the only thing I think that shuts up the ego, the arrogant ego that doesn't want to submit to God within us.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
So, سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين. والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Thank you, and may you all